Attention. Due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 68 of the Civil Gore podcast. I am your host, Tim.
And I am your host, Brian. And it's a very exciting day in the Civil Gore family as my brother Adam, who and his wife Hope they had their baby today. So my little niece Jules has a big brother, or I should say younger brother. Yeah. She's the big sister. So my little nephew Charlie has now come into the Civil Gore family.
New horror fan has entered the world.
Yes, and I'm sure my sister-in-law will love the fact that as soon as I introduce horror, since she's the one that actually basically doesn't watch them, and she just has me describe them to her as her viewing of the horror movies.
Nice.
Although she did read It, though, and saw the movie It, so that was good stuff.
That's pretty hardcore if you're a non-horror fan, I would say.
Right. So she took a good step. She watched the remake of It. And I wanted to have her watch Terrifier, but we didn't get a chance.
Yeah, that's throwing you into the deep end right away.
Oh, yeah, right? That's a good one. Well, I figured, you might as well go big.
Yeah.
Go Art the Clown. You went from Pennywise, you take the 9 layers up to Art the Clown.
Well, we have a pretty big show today, and definitely one of my favorite movies of all time, so let's get right to it. This is our first chop. So, Brian, did you get a chance to catch any of the JOE BOB BRIGGS marathon on Shudder that we talked about last episode?
I got to watch like here and there. It was tough because it seemed like the first couple of times, every time I tried to log in, I was a victim of the infamous net crash that seems to happen nowadays for everything, for Star Wars tickets. Even Amazon Prime Day today had a disaster.
Yeah, and they host cloud services, so they had no excuse.
Yeah, that one actually, I can understand Shudder. Okay, I get it because they're a streaming service, but mostly you pull from they were doing a live thing. They were trying to do something that was built up, and that you knew that was going to be something where Prime Day is something that is literally every year. They should be prepared for it. They've been promoting it every single second for the past 3 weeks. How are they not ready for it? And I swear to God, I am a big animal lover, but if I saw one more picture of that dog telling me that there's an error on their end,
my God. Yeah,
I was going to lose it. I'm like, I get it. Okay, I know it's your end. Do you have to show me a picture of the same 3 dogs over and over and over again? Yeah. But I didn't really find much on Prime Day, believe it or not. That I mean, there was a couple of things here or there, but it seems funny. It seems like it's like it's like there was certain things that I was keeping an eye out for, and it just never showed up yet.
Yeah,
so
I found a couple of little impulse things here and there, but I nothing that I was actually had an eye on that I was hoping would get a discount ever. Yeah. Was discounted. But if you guys don't know, if you didn't tune into the Shudder broadcast, basically, it was unavailable for probably a couple of hours, I would say. I finally gave up and went to bed. It was just crashing right and left. But, I mean, like some people posted on Facebook, there's like, hey, look at this as a good thing. Like, we had enough horror fans that we could bring down Shudder.
Yeah,
enough JOE
and
BOB
I'm glad.
Fans.
And I think that, I mean, yes, of course, JOE BOB BRIGGS is a big factor, but as I told Tim, I said it must be because Civil Gore had been promoting it and Shudder for
That's right. I'm sorry.
For a long time now. So we apologize to you guys. It's our fault. We should have just kept our mouth shut, kept it between us.
Yeah. Oh man, all of our listeners tuning in at the same time just crashed the whole service. It was a mess.
I tell you, it was crazy, but good for JOE BOB BRIGGS. He did for the little bits I got to see, and it was great. And of course, it's all available on demand now. They put it up there.
That's the thing that I mean. If Shudder had these issues and not taken steps to allow us to see that content, then I would be a little upset. But the fact that I mean, immediately, even after they got the thing running, they promised that they would rerun the whole marathon later in the week, and then they also have all the movies available on demand with JOE BOB's commentary, so you don't really have to miss a thing. And what's nice for me, I can't sit there for 24 hours and watch something anyway. So
who can? I mean,
so this is nice that I can just sit there, and I will, as I promised on Facebook, I will go through all 13 films with his commentary, even the ones I've seen before, just because I want the whole experience. Man, I was a huge Joe Bob fan back in the Monster Vision days. And this was just, I mean, this is Monster Vision, basically. It's the same format. It's the same jokes. It's the same everything. And I loved every minute of it. So,
I gotta get, I'm gonna try and watch as much as I can on it. I'm probably gonna go through, probably not, well, I don't know. I guess it's probably best to go into the order that they did. I was thinking of maybe just handpicking the movies that I haven't seen or haven't seen in a while. And maybe do those first, but I don't know. Maybe I'll just do what you did. Like I would assume they're going to keep it on for a while.
Yeah, well, you can always, if you don't want to watch the movie, you can always just fast forward to his segments, because
right, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Now I've actually been watching the movies. Just I've seen Tourist Trap and Sleepaway Camp fairly recently, even for this show. But I did watch Tourist Trap and Sleepaway Camp just for his commentary, and Tourist Trap was. I had forgotten this thing about Joe Bob where he would go into this crazy detail about the actors and actresses in the movies. And that really inspired me. Like, I think we should add more of that into our commentaries, do a little bit more research on these actors and kind of talk more about what else they were in and their inspirations and that kind of thing. So Joe Bob kind of inspired me.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes we go off on tangents with those, but yeah, we should kind of make it more of a regular portion of it per se, because especially when we, like in these, the Summer Slaycation, it's a little difficult because we usually have a lot to cover, but yeah, maybe definitely in the feature ones we should, and that'll make Cody very happy because it'll extend the episode a bit.
There you go. And Sleepaway Camp, he had Felissa Rose was on for this
really?
segment, so that was kind of fun to listen to them banter back and forth, during the breaks. So yeah, I've watched Tourist Trap and Sleepaway Camp. Again, I've seen those movies a bunch of times, so I was mainly watching those for the Joe Bob commentary. But I think the one coming up next, which I think is Rabid, I don't think I've ever seen that one. There's a few on here I've never seen. So I'm looking forward to getting to those ones that I haven't seen before.
Yeah, the one I saw was, I think he was the one part I caught live, I think when he was introducing Blood Feast, which was kind of funny. He was doing some funny stuff with that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That was in the morning, I think. I remember I finally got through at some point on Saturday morning, and I was like, oh, good, I got through, actually. Look at this. But, and actually, I have to say something about Felissa Rose. She's actually really great ambassador for horror, too, because she always is willing to, she's always appearing at conventions. She has a great Instagram. She seems like she's good with the fans, and she was even I know she was she appeared at, I believe, one of the retro picture shows.
Yeah, in fact, they were making a joke about how many conventions she does on the during the Joe Bob thing. So yeah, she's definitely very, very active still in the horror community, which is really cool.
And she was in Victor Crowley.
Oh yeah,
so that was good. Yeah, nice. She was in that movie. So. Well, there we go. Maybe it's like a preview of our discussion of when we do the Hatchet series, which we should do. That's got to come. I wanted to do it because it's one of my favorites this year, but I'm still expecting another movie, so maybe we'll put it off a year. Hopefully, another one will sneak out.
Well, it's definitely coming up in the next Slaycation for sure.
Yeah, either way. By far next year. For sure, I should say.
So my alphabet project continues. I am now on letter M. And for this, I chose Mark of the Devil from 1970. This one was on Shudder. I think Shudder maybe listed as 1972. IMDb said 1970. But this one's really good. It's about witch finders. So this is back in the old witch days where everybody's being burned as a witch. And you had these inquisitors that would accuse everybody of witchcraft. And it tells the tale of two opposing witchfinders. One is played by Reggie Nalder. This guy is creepy as can be. Go look him up. Nalder. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. But he plays this evil witchfinder named Albino. And this guy,
I thought that was albino you were writing, and like he was an albino witchfinder. No. That's what I thought.
He's like super evil. He's the one that is basically trying to extract sexual flavors, not flavors.
What flavor is that, Tim?
Sexual favors from women in exchange for not accusing them of witchcraft. So he's burning people at the stake at the drop of a hat. He's trying to basically rape all these women. Just a terrible, terrible human being. And then the rival witchfinder, who's actually an apprentice witchfinder, is played by a very young Udo Kier, and I didn't even recognize him. I did not recognize him. I noticed his eyes, and I'm like, man, I just called him Pretty Boy for the rest of the movie because he was the Pretty Boy Witchfinder. I did not realize until I looked it up for the podcast that was Udo Kier, and you can now know where those eyes came from. That's his most striking feature. But he plays basically an apprentice that starts to become disillusioned with the Witchfinder process, and he falls in love with one of the accused, and so that obviously makes him skeptical of the motives of these witchfinders, and so he starts to lash out. And it's the highlight of this movie for horror fans is that there's tons of this medieval type torture scenes. Okay. So you've got people stretched on a rack, you've got people with pins pushed into them, you've got tongues being taken out, you've got burning at the stake, you've got these big jaw thorn things that go around your waist and like impale you through your guts. All kind. If you like, if you like witch torture, this movie is right up your alley. Let me tell you.
It almost sounds like think about it, a guy with a pin in his head, people getting ripped off. It sounds like we're back in the Hellraiser series.
But this movie, interesting enough, was banned in Germany until 2016. That's how gruesome, quote unquote. It's not really that bad, but that it was one of those. Basically video nasties that was considered so horrific that it was banned in several countries. And as a promotion, when this came out, they even handed out vomit bags. So it was one of those type gimmicks. So, but it was really entertaining. Yeah, check it out on Shudder. It's actually a really good film. And if you want to see a very young Udo Kier, it's kind of cool to see him as a boy.
See, that's why we need to do the Joe Bob Briggs method of researching the actors.
Right.
And
I would have known.
Find things. Yeah. There you go.
And now we finally have some Friday the 13th game news to share. Tell us about that one, Brian.
Yeah. So actually, it's funny. I saw this about the same time Steve Cohn sent it, but we'll still give Steve Cohn his obligatory credit for bringing us some video game news. So they're releasing Friday the 13th, the game, the Ultimate Slasher Edition in September, where it comes with, I guess, a mask. I guess that's the key thing to this. The funny thing is, I kind of looked at it. I'm like, why? They basically told all their fans that that's it for the gaming content. Not to the, I know there's debate amongst people of, well, is it because of the lawsuit or because they used the lawsuit as an excuse and they wanted to get out? Whatever. But the thing is it still seems an odd choice to release this now. Why didn't this release back when the game was actually coming out and there was a future for it? It seems weird choice now in September.
I guess they're trying to get their last bunch of people that never bought it, because it does have all the retail and DLC that's come out so far. So basically,
that's true.
If you're new to the game, it's a great way to just get everything that ever has or probably ever will be released. Yeah. So I guess I can kind of see it from that perspective. And the mask is pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's cool to have the mask. I mean, that's basically if I like what you're buying though, what you're paying for.
Yeah. If you already
at the price point, the game is kind of secondary. But I was thinking, it's like what they should do is they should take that Unreal Engine that they have. I mean, because they pretty much have the core of this game. If they're not going to continue to make content for Friday the 13th, why not just take that engine and then put it towards another horror game? Like imagine like a Halloween or a I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street a little different. I don't know if that would work in that format.
Well, there's that Dead by Daylight has all that.
Yeah, they have them in it, but if you actually play them there, it's not the same. It doesn't get the feeling of the movies.
Right.
It just feels like almost like you would download a character in like Mortal Kombat. It doesn't really. I mean, it has some of the music, but it's not like it. You don't feel like you're playing. You're using Michael Myers, but you don't feel like you're playing in a Halloween movie.
Well, there you go. We need a Halloween game to come out with.
Remember the original one?
Yeah.
They had that old one for I guess Atari, right?
Yeah.
Where you just, or Commodore or something like that, where it was like really like chintzy and you just ran around with like a little Jamie Lee Curtis trying to get kids, and it was like little little blocky people. But I mean, like a nice epic Halloween game. Now and think about it. I mean, based on the sequels and stuff, there were plenty of different Michael Myers masks you can get for DLC. And
oh yeah,
and I was thinking,
franchise.
Yeah, I mean, and think about it. You could have the same thing where you have, like, instead of calling Tommy in, you call in Laurie Strode that comes in, or or Loomis. There's so many ways to really, like, make I'm hoping that with the resurgence of Halloween into the pop culture and the success of horror video games, that would be the next thing someone's looking at to do.
Yeah,
whether
it's
it's
a hospital level.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine that?
Yeah, the neighborhood level, the hospital level. You can all kinds of different
Smith
houses.
Grove.
Smith's Grove.
No, Smith Grove underneath.
Oh yeah, that'd be perfect.
I mean, you could have the from H2O that school.
Yeah. Oh man, that almost writes itself. You could just reskin the current game into.
Yeah, I mean, I know we joke about all our Kickstarters, but this one, I really hope someone's listening. Please, Gun Media, take this into consideration. Somebody get the rights and do this game. It would be so popular. Come on, it's a no-brainer.
Well, speaking of Halloween,
yes,
some fans have released a Lego trailer of the Halloween remake trailer. So in Lego form, no less.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's it's one of those typical Lego shot for shot things. They even managed in that famous scene where he puts his hand over and drops the teeth in. That like they had like little animated teeth on the floor to make it, but they have the sound. So it's really good. It's like I saw it from Jason Blum. He posted it and So that is just great because that's always enjoyable. And I'm sure most people like Tim and I probably watched the trailer 50,000 times anyway, so it's probably good to see a nice little like variant of it.
If only they would make some Halloween like actual Lego games, because I love the Lego games. They just need to make some horror themed ones.
Yeah, there you go, another one. See, that's actually now that you said that would. I mean, I know they had that Slayaway Camp, which is kind of like a Lego the Friday the 13th game, but now, yeah, that's right. Like obviously Friday the 13th. Is going to be mired in this legal battle for some time to get any kind of new but take Halloween and start making it. How great would that be? A Lego Halloween game. Basically everything we said, just repeat it with Legos.
They'd probably have a hard time marketing that one. They'd probably get some kickback from, or some harsh feedback from parents on that one, but I'd still would love to see it.
Yeah, but they could make it's an adult version of it. I mean, adults. I mean, listen, we have a good friend, Chris Rankin, that is the biggest Lego person I know.
Yeah.
So he would probably like that.
Yeah.
I'd just say make a whole like Lego horror series to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, did you actually hear? We didn't put this in the rundown, but it's another thing Cone sent me. The Mego action figure line is coming back.
Oh.
They're releasing actually a whole bunch of new things. Like I think Brady Bunch is one of the lines. Like I think I Dream of Jeannie.
Oh, that
like all these
awesome.
classic 70s things. Yeah, and anyone that doesn't know Mego I'm sure you probably do and you just don't realize it. You've seen all the dolls before. I know if you watch Comic Book Man, Kevin Smith, they had a lot of people coming in with old Mego action figures and stuff, and that's going to be a great line. Like that'll be fun to collect, and I think they're pretty they're kind of going around the gamut here. Like I know there's a Brady Bunch. There's Cheers is actually coming out with a line.
Oh well, that's
Wizard
perfect.
of Oz,
because there's such. I mean, everybody's in on the nostalgia kick. I mean, you're marketing to people in their 30s and 40s that kind of grew up with this stuff, and so, I mean that's a perfect marketing opportunity there.
Yeah. So, and I remember they came out with those. I don't know if you remember. They had these about maybe like 15 years ago. They had like these kind of style of figures, but it was not official Mego. And they had like the Brady Bunch, they had Happy Days, they had like these ones, and so I'm wondering if this will be like a kickoff of that. Like I'd love obviously all the superheroes to come back again. But they seem to have a lot of, according to Cone, there's a lot of good licenses that signed on for this thing. So
cool, yeah,
that'll be really cool. So and they're supposedly exclusive to Target, by the way. See, look at this. His rundown wasn't long enough, and then we're coming up with new ones. There's a Sulu and a Harley Quinn I saw.
Yeah,
so
they look cool. They look just like the old ones. They're really
yeah. I had the Mego Spider-Man. I remember, and Mego Hulk when I was a kid. So. That was cool. And everyone probably remember that silly one. I think it was on Robot Chicken, the Aquaman with the yellow. Remember they've always shown that. Everyone always sees that in there.
So coming up next, we have a Sisters 4K Criterion collection coming out on October 23rd.
As if October was not going to be an expensive month enough, they have to add another must buy for me. And you know how I feel. I have this love-hate with Criterion, but if this was Shout Factory, I might be a little more excited, but I looked at the discs on the specs on this. There's a ton of stuff, including that 4K thing, so I will have to purchase this because we know how we love Margot Kidder anyway.
Yeah.
This was a great film, so this is going to be automatic. But I don't know what I'm doing in October. I may have to,
After you're broke.
I may not be able to spend anything else.
No, oh my gosh. And then we got a Stranger Things Season 3 teaser. Now, before you get excited, it's not an actual preview of Season 3, but instead it's one of their kind of charming 80s retro throwback kind of joke teasers, but it's awesome. It's basically a mall commercial from the 80s.
But Steve appeared. He's in it.
That's right. Steve
makes an appearance.
He does.
Working at, what was it, Scoops Ahoy ice cream.
Yeah.
Which is... So obviously, that's going to be some kind of, because that's like the one fake store, I believe, right? There was no Scoops Ahoy in as far as I remember.
No, but they have plenty of nostalgic real stores like Radio Shack and Claire's and Walden Books.
Orange Julius.
If you could watch this teaser.
Hot Dog on a Stick.
Oh, yeah. If you could watch this teaser and not, want to go back to your childhood mall, then you're better than me, because it instantly made me nostalgic for the mall.
Oh my god, there was even Sam Goody in there.
Yeah, Sam Goody.
There was so many things, and Sam Goody actually was funny. Will have always a very interesting place in my my lore, because that was where, believe it or not, there was some kind of deal I went through them, and that's how I got my Entertainment Weekly subscription that I still have to this day.
Wow.
I don't remember what I did, but I remember them, and they renewed it automatically. And I went in there and I said, I was going to renew it. I don't like the fact that you renewed it automatically on me, but I was going to do it. And that was back in the day, early on, when things would auto-renew and, on credit cards. And I had a debit card at that point. I wasn't even using the credit card. So I'm like, okay, you just took $60 out of my account without letting me know. So I remember I went in there, but I said, I am going to say I was going to renew, so I'm not totally upset. I just want you to know that I don't like that you took it out.
That was back when magazines were actually expensive, subscriptions. Now you get hey, $5 for a year of Entertainment Weekly. Okay,
exactly. Yeah, and I still would pay $60. I love my Entertainment Weekly. I look forward to that every week, and I must never lose that subscription. I would be devastated if that magazine went.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I don't know what Tim and I would do. No. Okay.
Oh, next up we have our water zombies. They have made it to action figure form. Amok Time Toys. You can now pre-order the Water Zombies 2-pack. Run this one down, Brian, because I had to laugh at one of these features.
So first of all, I will say Amok Time Toys, I've known them for many, many years. They're a store in Long Island, and they were always at Feature to Chiller. It's a guy, Paul James Lazo, actually. He's the owner of it. I remember he had a really small thing, I think out of his garage at one point, and then he got a big store, and he does a huge mailer stuff, and they actually have they get exclusives too. So he's got a lot, and he's got great prices. In fact, that's where, Tim, I ordered your Christmas gift was from Amok Time.
Oh, cool.
Your critters. And so they have a lot of good stuff. They already taking pre-orders on that Part 2 Jason and the other one. But so I saw this. They posted. They actually are showing early pictures of it. What do you call those? Not work prints, but whatever the form of an action figure is. The
the proofs. Versions. Like the proofs.
Proofs, that's it. Thank you. Yes, that was it. The proofs. So they're showing this and taking the pre-orders. Only $29.99 for the 2-pack, so it's a really good deal on this. And it's free shipping if you pre-order. So basically, you can guarantee yourself not having to pay shipping if you do the pre-order for this rather than order it later, even though they're really good prices and good on shipping anyway. But so here's the description. It's Monstars proudly present its second Creepshow release. They did I want my cake.
Yeah, I actually saw that one in person at Mad Monster Party, and I almost bought it.
Yeah, I think I may actually have to suck it up and buy that one too at some point. But it's basically Harry and Becky from Creepshow's third terrifying tale, Something to Tide You Over, or as Tim and I affectionately call them, Water Zombies. Yeah. Trademark Civil Gore. Anyway, a retro style collectible that will fit in perfectly with most 3.75 scaled inch action figure lines. So it's a 2-pack. They feature multiple points of articulation, clip-on seaweed, which I bet was Tim's favorite part. That was the one that was making me laugh. Clip-on seaweed. Yeah. It says 2x action figure display bases, frightfully packaged in a retro style card. And it says, Creep Show, the most fun you'll ever have being scared. And like I said, it's coming in November and $29.89. That's a great deal for that. So I think I'm going to have to, I might pre-order that just because, with the free shipping. It just saves me from driving over to the store or picking it up.
I think I'm going to have to grab that Father's Day cake one as well. Because you can still get that one. You need that.
Oh, yeah. No, and Amok Time, they're usually good at having, they always seem to have those things in stock. They have a great, for those who go to Chiller, they have a great booth there. And they're usually, like, if you walk into that big room, and anyone that goes to Chiller, you know what I mean, that big collectible room. If you go into the if you're facing it to the far left and you walk in, they're usually a massive, long, almost a half the row of that first row. They have a table there. So you can usually look for, I've seen Paul there most of the time, but sometimes he's got his staff there running the booth. But sometimes he's there. If you get a chance to talk to him, he's a great guy. Knows a lot of comic books and toys, so.
All right, and finally we have Going to Pieces, The Rise and Fall of the Slasher Film, 1978 to 1986 by Radom Rockoff.
That's funny. We nicknamed my brother Radom for a joke that I'll explain at a whole nother time, and we don't have the time.
I don't know why I'm having such trouble speaking tonight, because I haven't drinking anything. So
I know. I'm not drinking a beer today either. I'm not having a beer with this podcast. Poor Tim.
Maybe I need a beer. Maybe that's what's wrong.
That could be it. You're thrown off because you're completely coherent now. So what this was, I didn't even tell you this. So Paul was going through his stuff, and he found this book, and he said, he had read it, and he said it's, they also have the documentary on it, but he said the book he thought was much better. So he actually sent me the book to borrow to read this, and he actually put a little note in there. It says, "Now you actually have to read, Brian." Oh, well. And so because he knows that Tim's the reader of the podcast here, but yeah. So this is a nice hardcover book. It looks like definitely a pretty quick read though. It's only it's a couple 100 pages, but it looks like I'll breeze right through it because it looks really fun. It's got some pictures in it. It's really, really cool. I was skimming through it before I started, and I saw some pictures from Curtains is in there. There's Halloween stuff. Yeah, so I have to do this. I'm sure, Paul, if you're listening, I'm sure you won't mind if Tim borrows it after, and then we'll send it back to you.
Yeah, I take good care of my books.
Yes, Tim is a big reader. He's like Henry Bemis in The Twilight Zone. He's a reader. But Olivia is much nicer than his wife, and she doesn't cross out all his books. And
my glasses are not yet that thick. I have just the regular low-powered readers, but nothing on that scale.
The funny thing is, if they did that today and that was me, I think it would be my like iPad and Blu-ray player that would break. That would be crushing. Yeah, like I'd be like in a thing, and I'd be like all the Blu-rays in the world, all the Blu-rays I could ever want, and then all of a sudden my machine would break. Yeah, so. We should do that. That would be fun. If we ever get big enough, I say we should do like not just our parody sketches, audio, but video ones, and we could do a sketch on that. I think that'd be fun.
Together and do a short film. Yeah.
Yes. Right. So we'll get Paul to direct it because Paul and do all the stuff for us because he's a awesome director and he's got a great horror mind, so he would probably love to do that. So
awesome.
So Paul, see, I signed you up for 2 things that you'll hear about on Friday.
Alrighty, well, let's get right into our big dismemberment.
Wait, no, please, God, no, don't call upon.
These are the Blu-ray releases for July 24th, 2018, and first up, man, I had to go back and forth on my pick of the week this week, Brian, but I finally settled on this one. My pick of the week is In the Mouth of Madness. 1994, Shout Factory, directed by John Carpenter, starring Sam Neill, Jürgen Prochnow, Julie Carmen. An insurance investigator begins discovering that the impact a horror writer's books have on his fans is more than inspirational. Packed with features, as most Shout Factory collector's editions are. This one has a new audio commentary with John Carpenter and producer Sandy King Carpenter. New Horrors, Hallowed Grounds, which I always enjoy those on the Shout Factory disc.
Yeah.
a new interview with Julie Carmen, a new interview with Greg Nicotero, some behind-the-scenes footage, another audio commentary previously released with John Carpenter and cinematographer Gary Kibb, vintage featurette, trailer, TV spots. This sounds like a great disc. I remember this movie back when it came out. I watched this when I was a big Lovecraft fan, and this one definitely has some Lovecraft influences to it. So, definitely high on my list. This is one I will definitely be picking up.
Man, Shout Factory's killing it lately. They just don't stop. They're like just continue release after release, and they have all that stuff coming too.
Yeah, and Arrow too. I mean, Arrow is just as, is putting out some really fantastic discs these days. So, that one's my pick of the week.
Yeah, I'm thinking then just to be different, because I was torn between this one and the next one that we're about to announce. But I think I'll go with this next one because it'll complete my set.
And it's definitely worthy. This is the one I was going back and forth on. But the next one Brian's referring to is Beyond Reanimator from 2003, released by Lionsgate. And this is interesting because Lionsgate is not typically known for their collector's editions, but this is a true collector's edition. Of course, this one was directed by Brian Yuzna, starring Jeffrey Combs, Tommy Dean Mussett, and Jason Barry. After 13 years in a prison ruled by a very mean director, Dr. Herbert West is invited to be the assistant of newcomer Dr. Howard Phillips, a brilliant resident in the penitentiary infirmary. After being introduced to each other, Dr. Phillips discloses that the last experiment of Dr. West killed his sister 13 years ago when he was a boy, and he became fascinated with the possibility of bringing dead people back to life. The journalist Laura Olney, covering a matter for her newspaper in the prison, has an affair with Dr. Phillips, and they fall in love. However, the experience of Dr. West loses control, and the place becomes a branch of hell. So this one, for a Lionsgate feature, listen to what you're getting on this Blu-ray. So you're getting, obviously, a restored and remastered version of the movie, a new isolated score selections, an audio interview with composer Xavier Capellas, a new interview with director Brian Yuzna, an interview with Jeffrey Combs, an interview with S.T. Joshi, author of I Am Providence, The Life and Times of H.P. Lovecraft, a new production art gallery, an audio commentary with the director, still gallery, a vintage EPK featurette, a music video for Dr. Reanimator.
I want to know what this is.
Move Your Dead Bones, whatever that is, and a theatrical trailer. So very much packed collector's disc. And if you love the Reanimator series like I do, this is a no-brainer as well.
Yeah, I want to know what that Move Your Dead Bones music video is.
I'm sure you could look it up. I bet it's...
Is the house band the Skeletones? That was terrible.
Yeah, well... We can't all be Punhead, Brian.
No, we can't. We can't.
The next one up is another one that is a favorite of my old college days when I was heavy
Stuart
into
Gordon.
Yeah, it was again another Lovecraft title. I don't know what it is with the Lovecraft titles this week, but this is Dagon from 2001, or you can call it Dagon if you're from the South. Dagon. Again, released by Lionsgate, directed by Stuart Gordon, starring Ezra Godin, Francisco Rabal, and Raquel Morono. A boating accident runs a young man and woman ashore in a decrepit Spanish fishing town, which they discover is in the grips of an ancient sea god and its monstrous half-human offspring. So this is
that almost sounds like a game of the Sea of Thieves, where Steve Cohen's fate is decided.
This is a very well-known, if you're into Lovecraft fiction. You had these hybrid like fish people creatures in Innsmouth. So this is all related to that. And let me tell you, this movie has some really, really creepy sequences in it. If you have not seen it, definitely worth seeking out and checking it out. It's a really good movie. This one has some, I'm going to just run through these again, interviews, art gallery, 2 audio commentaries, some archival interviews, theatrical trailer, storyboard gallery, still gallery. So another packed disc. This one I may have to pick up because I haven't seen this movie in a long time, but I remember it being pretty darn scary when I watched it back in the day.
Yeah, and I get it. It's so funny. It's like this week, it seems like all those times where the special features were left off in our rundown, they all came back now. Yeah. There's a lot of special features on these discs.
Yeah. The next one up, man, this one looks cheesy as it can be. Streets of Vengeance from 2016, released by Slasher, Whoever that is.
You gotta love that name.
Yeah. Directed by Paul Ragsdale and Angelica D'Alba. Starring Delana McKinney, Anthony Iava To'omara, and Paige Laney. Former adult film star Mila is attacked by a misogynistic cult known as the Sword. She turns vigilante and puts a group of badass girls together and seeks revenge. So this one has some good features. It's got an audio commentary with the writer and director, producer and cinematographer. It's got a making of featurette, cast and crew interviews, outtakes, bloopers, photo galleries, music videos, trailers, all kinds of stuff. But I was looking at the poster for this one and I was like, wow, this is like a really cheesy 80s vibe to it, but I don't know.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's got a trailer for another movie on it.
Yeah.
Whatever Tough Guys is. So that's always kind of funny to me. It's like, well, just in case you didn't like this one, here's another one you might want to try. Here's another trailer.
This next one kind of falls into the same subgenre, I'm guessing. It's called Sunset Society from 2018, released by a company called Cleopatra, directed by Phoebe Dollar and Rolf Konevsky, starring Ron Jeremy himself.
Oh, boy.
And Aaron Groban. Welcome to the world of the Sunset Society, a secret organization in Hollywood where parties are held, musicians gather, and blood flows freely. Ace, Lemmy from Motorhead, is the head vampire in charge.
Why is he not in the credits, in the starring role, though?
Who likes to keep fun going while keeping the profile low. However, due to a few rebels in his midst, humans are starting to catch on to his vampire ways. So, I don't know if this is like softcore porn or hardcore porn or just Ron Jeremy getting out of porn. I don't know.
I just can't believe, though, the year is 2018 of this, because this sounds like something that would totally be like somewhere lost in the 80s, this whole like
I don't
plot,
know.
But oh well.
And then we have finally a couple of Gravitas Ventures discs. The first one up is
been absent for a while.
Yeah, The Incantation from 2018, directed by Jude S. Walco, starring Dean Cain, Superman himself, Sam Valentine, Jude S. Walco. Synopsis: a young American girl has a chance of a lifetime to visit her ancestors' castle in the south of France, only to find that her family is hiding deep, dark secrets about their nefarious past far away from prying eyes. No features listed for this one or the next one, which is Another Soul from 2018, directed by Paul Chow, starring Maura Grady, Garland Green, and Wyatt Couther. A couple on the run battle to save their daughter from possession by a demon. So yeah, I think we know what our picks of the week are. Those discs up there. These kind of had some.
I think we could even interchange them, either one or both. Like you said, both valid choices.
And we do finally have a horror theatrical release coming out this week. This was Unfriended Dark Web, directed by Steven Susko, starring Rebecca Rittenhouse, Betty Gabriel, and Chelsea Alden. A teen comes into possession of a new laptop and soon discovers that the previous owner is not only watching him, but will also do anything to get it back. So this is the follow-up to, I guess, the first Unfriended, which I actually never saw.
I didn't either. I was gonna say, is this like? I know it's a sequel, but is it like the person, whatever? I guess a villain from the first one? Is it like her laptop or something?
I don't know. I get the feeling that they may not be related. It's just a kind of, but I have no idea. I'm basing that off pure assumption.
Yeah, sometimes it's like when they just take the try and expand a movie by just using the title like that, and it really has. I don't know. It's like this one I could see being just. I mean, I could be wrong, but from what I understood, the first one wasn't that great. I can't imagine this one being that good.
I'm not excited to go see this one like I was for Purge. Yeah.
No, like to me, this is going to be when it comes on Amazon Prime or Shudder or something. I'll give it a look.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So, some really good releases this week and some really bad ones, but I think the good ones definitely outweighed the bad, because those are some great discs. All three of those, even Dagon, I would also.
Yeah, actually, and I have never seen that. So actually, but I'm already want to get it just by your the description and like how much you were saying how good it is. It sounds like a really cool movie. So
I still don't know how to pronounce Dagon or Dagon or Dagon it. I don't know.
Oh yeah, Dagon.
I heard somebody on a podcast. I always have said Cthulhu, and I heard somebody they pronounced it a really weird way. He was from Britain, but it was like Cthulhu or something like. It doesn't even sound.
I just thought it was Cthulhu.
I did too, but
Cthulhu
he pronounced it like Cthulhu or something like that. I can't even pronounce it, but
Is he right,
weird. I don't know. Well, then I just found out. Like I used to always say Aleister Crowley, but
it's not.
No, the actual pronunciation. I learned this is actually the real pronunciation is Aleister Crowley.
So is it Victor Crowley too?
I don't know. Depends on, I guess, if you're in America or England. But yes, Aleister Crowley.
Yeah. Oh,
So,
okay. That's interesting.
to-
I would have. I pronounced it the way you
also,
did too.
Kenny called me out
Uh-oh.
for me saying Guillermo del Toro because he says the G is silent. So I should be saying Guillermo. I can't even say it.
Oh my God, that's one I've been getting wrong too. Then,
But I've heard other people pronounce the G, but
Yeah.
apparently that's the ignorant American way to say it.
I even think they announced it at the Oscars. When they would announce it, they said it. But
I don't
okay.
know. So I have to go look that up. But yeah. So
Ken also actually he sent us something. It was cool. I watched it today. We'll definitely talk about it on a future episode. It was that IGN listed their top 7 scariest things on film I watched. That was pretty interesting. I do want to talk about it. I just know that Ken will probably do this once we're done with the Slaycation. We'll put that down to talk because I do want to discuss that because it was an interesting take. It wasn't like a typical list. I will say.
No, it wasn't here's the 7 scariest moments from film. It was more like here's the 7 most scariest horror things that movies do.
Yeah,
Like
and I thought it was
jump
actually a
scares.
really good thing.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you sent that to us, Ken. That was awesome. I do want to discuss that. We'll do that on one of our future episodes once we get back from the summer Slaycations.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that'll be a cool thing.
We'll do that. Okay, on to our main feature, Psycho, 1960, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring Anthony Perkins, Janet Leigh, and Vera Miles. And I will give you the synopsis, but if you have not seen this movie, shame on you.
Know. If you go like, oh, that sounds interesting after this, this is not you. Why are you even listening to this podcast? Actually, yeah.
A Phoenix secretary embezzles $40,000 from her employer's client, goes on the run, and checks into a remote motel run by a young man under the domination of his mother.
Now, I will say something though about that description. It's funny. It does if you heard that. Would you actually think it would be the epic horror film that it is?
No.
Just by that description.
It sounds like a typical Hitchcock movie, maybe even less interesting than a typical Hitchcock movie, because those usually involve some kind of twist and murder, whereas this synopsis doesn't say anything about a murder.
Right, it doesn't hint for that.
Right.
It just says, she encountered, and which that's, I think, one of the things that's so great about this. Even, it's hard now because I've seen it so many times, but I try and think back to the first time I saw it. I mean, granted, going to watch it, I knew it was a horror movie, but when you're watching it, I almost wish I would have seen it without knowing. I wish I would have seen it when it came out originally, like everyone else got to see it for the first time, where it had that slow burn into a horror film. And I was like, you sometimes that's like one of those movies, I call them like time travel movies, where I'd love to have gone back to see them at the time of release before I knew anything about them.
Yeah, even as I was watching this one, I was trying to put myself in the mindset of somebody who didn't know anything about the movie, and how long he actually does a really good job of making you think through the entire movie. Spoiler alert, but I'm going to give spoilers to this because if you haven't watched it yet, shame on you. Turn this off and go watch it. He does a really good job of the movie making you wonder if the mom really is alive and is killing people. I tried to look at it from a perspective of being totally innocent and not knowing, and I can see where you would be completely fooled up until the end.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like, even when you watch it now, it's like you can still appreciate that part of it. I'm just like, wow, look at this. If I didn't know the whole history of this movie, I'm looking at that thing, and the way they did the tricks with the window shots, those and the shouting match and like all that stuff. It's like you're like I really wish I could see this for the first time every time I watch it. It's like you still get blown away every time you see it if you love the film, but at the same time it's like it's like you know what's coming now, but it still doesn't take it in any way. I love watching it every time I watch it.
Well, I have a confession to make. I actually saw Psycho 2 before I saw Psycho.
Oh, that's funny.
So back when I was younger, and I still remember this, I used to not watch black and white movies. I wouldn't do it because they were old, quote unquote old, and I didn't watch old movies. It seems insane for me to say that now, as much as a film lover as I am, and as many old movies as I've consumed over the years since then. But back when I was a teenager, I was not going to watch a black and white movie for nothing. And
that's funny.
I saw the franchise. I knew about Psycho from reading and just pop culture in general. And I went to the video store. I saw Psycho on the shelf. I looked at the back. I saw that it was in black and white. And I said, nope, I'm not watching that. But Psycho 2 is in color, so give me that one. And so I watched that one completely.
Were you confused?
I don't remember, but I just, for years, I just didn't watch it. I never watched Psycho because it was in black and white.
See, I bet you I would have had the same that philosophy, except for one thing. When I was a kid, I had a small TV in my room, and for the longest time, it was black and white. So I saw stuff that was not in black and white. So to me, it wasn't that crazy of a transition. So it's like I was like, oh, okay, this is just black and white, or I'm watching it on my TV. So either way, it's funny. But I could see you thinking that because I knew Julie had said that once. Like she tends to, like when movies come out, she has trouble sometimes watching the originals when like there were more sequels in there because it's newer. And it's right, like it's. Yeah. So I totally get that, but obviously now you're probably like, damn it, I should have watched the first one.
Well, anyway. I'll tell you the best thing that ever happened to me in college, besides getting out of there, getting a degree and making it out, but one of the best classes I ever took was my film appreciation class. It was taught by a professional film critic, and he. Basically, when you went into that class, you started at square one. You started with Intolerance and Birth of a Nation. Cool. These very, very early films, and you.
Did you see that Birth of a Nation?
Yeah,
because I had a class where they they showed and they showed that, and we watched it on a screen. It was great.
Yeah, Charlie Chaplin. We did a ton of Charlie Chaplin.
Oh, did you watch The General? Because that's what they showed us in my film class.
Probably. I know we did.
I'm sorry, that's Buster Keaton, but yeah, I know what you mean, like the old, yeah. They showed Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton films. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some of the other ones, but yeah, so almost every big Charlie Chaplin film we watched, that class gave me literally, as the title would suggest, made me appreciate film in a way I had never appreciated it before, and opened my eyes to a whole world of movies that I basically went nuts after that class watching old movies. So it's like I was making up for lost time. But so at some point in there, I might have even watched Psycho before then. I'm pretty sure I had. But at some point I got over my thing with black and white movies and I watched Psycho. It became one of my favorites of all time. When I bought the DVD, which looked phenomenal, like when they remastered it for DVD, I haven't even seen the Blu-ray. So
I watched it on Blu-ray. I watched
God.
my out of my Psycho. It was I have the both I have the 4-pack and I have the regular Blu-ray release of it. But it's the same. In those it's the same disc, and it looks amazing. And Psycho was one of the original DVDs that I bought. I bought 4 DVDs, and that was the one I remember. It was that Can't Hardly Wait, something else, 2 other ones, but that one I remember specifically was getting Psycho because I'm like, I want a classic on my new format, my shiny new DVD player, and I'm gonna get something. And I remember looking so good, even in, like you said, black and white on a digital version of it. Looks just like it. I was actually amazed on how good it looked. Like when I was watching it was so clear.
It just pops. The black and white.
Yeah.
In some ways, black and white actually looks better than color sometimes. Just like animation sometimes looks better on Blu-ray.
Yeah,
just
I
because
agree.
it's so crisp and the contrast is so defined compared to color that you get some really, really cool transfer. I love watching black and white movies on Blu-ray.
Yeah, and the sound was really good on the Blu-ray.
Yeah,
I have it in surround sound, but it was like the music and just the sound was crisp and clear. It was so. Now that I think about it, I don't know if I've watched it on Blu-ray because a couple of times it was on. I actually was watching. It was on one of the cable stations at one point, and then I had my DVD of it that I used to have. So I ended up watching that. So I hadn't seen it in a while, which was pretty good. So I was glad I got to crack open the Blu-ray version of it, which was just fantastic. I didn't get to watch the special features in time, which I wanted to, but I still may do that before I start watching 2, 3, and 4. So.
Yeah, I've watched the special features on the DVD, and the original trailer for Psycho. Watching it now is kind of funny because
it is.
It's basically Hitchcock going through and telling you all about the movie.
Yeah,
and it almost seems so spoilery now that you know the story. You're like, why is he showing all this? Like, this is ridiculously spoiler.
But that's the way trailer. What man? He used to be like, this is a hotel. Named the BATES Motel. Yeah, it was like he would basically like flat out like sit there and like tell you exactly what you're about to watch. Like if you go to see, but back then it's not. There was no internet, you know. I mean, there was no 5 million magazines and ways to spread stuff about the movies. So it's like and trailers were obviously back then were very similar to that. If you look at old movie trailers, they were very like, and they used to say the title like 75 times during the thing. Like through all old trailers, remember that?
Yeah.
They're like, it would be like Psycho, then a whole bunch of stuff. Then Psycho, and just they would say it a little differently. Yeah, so it was kind of funny how they would do that back then. But yeah.
But this movie, man, every time I watch it, I'm blown away by Anthony Perkins' performance because
oh my god, it's weird. I was thinking that last night too. I almost forgot how good he was in it, which it sounds asinine if you think about it. When I've seen it, we've seen it so many times and know what he does. But
he plays Norman Bates. Now the book, if you've ever read the book, Psycho is completely different. Not in terms of plot so much, but although there are some plot changes, but basically Norman Bates in the book is a balding, middle-aged, overweight man.
Oh, see, I don't think that plays as well.
No, completely different. I mean, Anthony Perkins' character is a young, handsome, like energetic guy. So what a bold choice, number one, to completely flip that character, but it works. And Anthony Perkins plays this character perfectly because he's a mama's boy and he plays as a boy. I mean, he's so boyish in his role. He's always munching on candy. He's bouncing down the stairs. I was reading an article that was talking about how even though Janet Leigh and Anthony Perkins weren't really that far apart in age, she seems like a woman talking to a boy.
Right.
In the movie. And that's just a credit to his incredible performance. Some of the stuff, like one of my favorite lines in the whole movie, which is when he's talking and he says, you eat like a bird.
Oh,
and
yeah.
she goes, well, you would know. And she's looking up at the stuffed birds. And he goes, I've heard that's a falsity. Like, you can't get it. And it's such a weird, like, why would you play it that way? Or why would you stutter? But it's such a great line. Like, I look forward to that every time I watch Psycho. It's like, it's just the way he decided to deliver that line is just amazing. It just gives you this insight into his character, like this nervousness, this unsurety about him. It's incredible to watch.
Yeah, and you notice when he does that, when he gets nervous, his stutter comes in, which was it's
every time she starts talking about like the taxidermy, you see him kind of take that defensive kind of nervousness, because he knows he's got his mom stuffed up at the house.
Yeah. Well, I love when he said he basically like almost says it's almost like a foreshadow in that one line when he said, I know I'm not gonna get this exactly correct, but where he said something, where she says, it's good to have a hobby or something to fill some of the time. He goes, but not when it's all the time or something. He says when it fills.
Oh yeah,
when
it feels all the time. Yeah.
When it is all the time. With that, when you think about it, it's like then you get the reveal at the end, and you piece that together. You're like, oh, okay. It's like now it's like it gives another meaning to. You just think, okay, he was just so obsessed that he stuffed so many birds, but it's like.
And of course, Marion Crane, another bird. That goes into his collection.
Yeah, there you go.
So there's so many little things like that in this movie that I just love it. And as you rewatch it, you see these over and over and over. One of the ones that I had never noticed before, and it was pointed out on that documentary I watched, the 7852 or whatever documentary.
Oh yeah. I still gotta track that down
about the shower scene. One of the directors is in there talking about the shower scene, and there's of course, the shot of Janet Leigh's body slumped over the tub. And you've got the close-up on her eye as it pans out. And, of course, she's perfectly still. There's a little eye twitch there at one point.
Yeah, she moved. And her neck, you could see, like, move a little bit. Which I never always... I know people have said it before, but I guess I never caught... But on the Blu-ray, was so crisp and clear, the visuals, that I could really see it, this one.
Well, there's a segment, during that pullback, there's a brief segment where he cuts back to the shower head and then back to her body. And one of the directors on the documentary said, when I saw that, I knew that was not a stylistic decision because there's no reason for him to cut back to that shower head. It kind of messes up the flow of the pullback, right? So come to find out, the reason he does that is because Janet Leigh took a breath during that shot. She was already gone. She wasn't available to do any kind of reshoots. So he had no choice but to cut back to the shower head to cut that piece of her breathing out and cut back to her body. I've never noticed it in all the times I've watched this movie why that was a big deal, but just because it showed directors look at movies a different way than you or I do, because he instantly noticed that interruption of that flow. So that's kind of cool. Just a cool little trivia.
And see, I thought it was just him being like you said, I figured it was a stylistic choice at some point, but it's funny how someone else would look at it exact opposite.
Yeah. So, and of course, Janet Leigh's terrific in this too. I mean, she's always so classy. She seems like she's always just got her stuff together.
She cracks me up though in the scene when she was trying to get the car, and she's just like, her like eyes are like this wide open, and she's just trying to talk so fast to get out of the situation. It's so funny, and I don't know why. It's like so many times I found myself like chuckling with some of the things, like when the cop's just standing there the entire time while she's at the car dealership, and he's just standing over there, and like you figure in the slow build up, they're trying to give you all these like false things, like what is going to be the downfall here, is it going to be the cop that's going to catch her at this point, even though we know, but like I said, I was trying to put myself in the persona, which is difficult as it was, of someone that has never seen it. So I was trying to find things like that, and I'm wondering, like, if I would have saw that originally, I would have thought, oh, maybe this cop is going to be after her the whole movie, and that's what this is going to be, the whole the chase or through.
But can you imagine? You have the first half of the movie. You've become sympathetic to this character that has stolen this money. She's Janet Leigh. She's a beautiful woman. She's a big star. She's obviously the lead of this movie, along with Anthony Perkins. And then she's just killed.
Right.
I mean, we're used to it these days with Game of Thrones. Anybody can die anytime. But
now there's nothing like that anymore.
I can't imagine the shock of the lead actress just being offed halfway through the movie. It's insane.
Yeah, it was funny because Julie was, she had seen this, but she hadn't seen it in a while, and she came in, she goes, she died already? I'm like, yeah. I said, that's, and there's, it's funny, it's like you would almost figure like, and there's so much movie left after that, and in fact, that some might argue the real meat of it is right after that, and it's like, yeah. But it really is such a good movie on so many levels, and to go back to Anthony Perkins' performances, he does such a good job that you actually, he goes from that like boyish to like like hints of a little bit being sinister and angry, but not like an angry man, but still an angry boy, like you said, like when he goes, I forgot what the line was per se that he said.
Yeah, he goes, when she's talking about putting his mom in an institution, and he's
yes, that was it. Yeah,
they cluck their thick tongues or whatever it was, cluck their tongues and talk so delicately. I mean, he just goes into like this real dark place. That's really cool to see.
Yeah, but still, it's like, and he goes right back to this. Then this likable little boy, and it's just the way he does, and he starts, and he's so, he seems like a really thoughtful guy, and it's like it's hard to like, after what basically all that he's that he is. It's just such an interesting thing to see it when you see the transition he goes through in that movie. But
yeah, I mean, I think it's by far, obviously this role basically typecast him for the rest of his life, but it defines this movie. I mean, without that portrayal, do you think this movie becomes the classic it was? Maybe on a general Hitchcock level of, it's a Hitchcock film, so obviously it's good. But would it be as classic without his performance? I don't think so. I mean, he is the heart and soul of this movie is his portrayal of Norman Bates.
Yeah, and it's sometimes the looks he gives and the little smirks and just little like notes that he hits throughout are like, I can't picture someone else pulling it off that well.
Well, even when he's not speaking, like when he's watching the car sink and he does for a minute there, he doesn't think it's gonna go all the way under. And he just kind of looks around and he's still munching on his candy. I mean,
his candy munches. Yeah,
I mean, it's just played so note perfect. It's phenomenal to watch. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing him in the sequels because it's been so long since I've seen the sequels.
Yeah, I remember I remember seeing the second one when it debuted on HBO and thought it was like, because I remember it came out so many years after. I mean, what was the difference?
20-some years. It was like
20. Yeah. At least they got him back for it. Can you imagine? I mean, I know he didn't, I mean, I know that sometimes you have to replace the person, but I'm glad he went through the whole thing himself, because you imagine them replacing him somewhere in there for a sequel, like later on. It just would not be the
will
same.
say, we weren't going to really talk about the Bates Motel TV series, but I guess this is as good a time as any to bring it up, because if you have not seen, I know you haven't seen it yet, Brian, but if you have not seen the Bates Motel TV series, which is now ended, I think it went through 3 or 4 seasons.
I think it was 5 because I saw an ad for it.
Oh, really?
It showed
Maybe
5 box. It was 5. Maybe unless they split one of the seasons up, but I saw it was a 5 box sets to purchase on. I think it was on Amazon or something.
Yeah, it ran for 4 years. Oh, you're right. So it might be. Yeah, season 5. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, it was actually more than I thought. But we watched all of them, and I will have to say that was a pretty darn good alternative version of Norman, played by what's his
Freddie
name?
Highmore.
Yes. So
Highmore.
I don't
Freddie
know. Highmore. Yeah, and Vera Farmiga, who is awesome. I love her in anything.
Yeah,
plays the mother. But yeah, this is a real. It does lose its way a little bit. I think early on, maybe season 2, it gets a little weird with like some of the subplots, but it gets back on track pretty quickly. But it's interesting that the film takes place in the series takes place in like modern times, but they keep Norman and his mom kind of old fashioned. So you get this sense that you don't really know what time era it takes place in to kind of tie it back to the movies. But it's a really, really neat take on Norman and his mother, and I would say obviously it's not up to Anthony Perkins level as far as performance, but man, Freddie Highmore gives a astounding portrayal of a young Norman Bates in that series. So if you haven't watched it, definitely check it out.
But it's not a prequel, right? It's its own thing.
It is its own thing. It's almost like I don't even know how to describe it. It's almost like a prequel / alternate. It's almost like an alternate version. Because it does tie into the movies, but things play out completely differently.
Oh, okay.
So,
because remember the 4th one, I don't know if you saw Psycho the revenge, or the fourth, the revenge or whatever. They remember, you know, because Freddie, I almost said that. Henry Thomas plays young Norman Bates, but since they go back and forth and you know he's supposed to be younger, it kind of works.
Yeah, the series basically does its own thing. It doesn't try. It loosely stays connected to the films, but it never does anything exactly like the films did, which I loved because as a fan of the movies, I didn't want to see the same thing rehashed on television, and they definitely don't do that. They just give an alternate take on the whole Norman Bates and his mom thing, which is great. So
it's almost like a Smallville, right? It took the mythology that you know, but it changed it, but it doesn't really go into the movies, but but you'll recognize
things from the movies,
right?
That they will allude to, or that they will even play out, but they will play out completely differently than they did in the movies.
Right. Okay.
So yes,
it's the horror version of Smallville.
Yeah. So yes, there's a shower scene, but it's nothing like what you see in the movies. So so it definitely that was such a great series. Oh my gosh, me and my wife were just completely hooked on it. So.
Yeah, I'll probably try and go through that because I could probably binge it now that it's probably somewhere, right? I'm sure it's on some of the streaming services.
You can probably find it out there somewhere. So what else is there to say about Psycho, man? This is one of my favorite movies of all time, basically because of all the little things, all the little performances, like you said. One of the things that came out in the documentary was how Alfred Hitchcock had a very nihilistic view in his movies of basically random stuff can happen at any time to anybody, and nowhere is this more apparent than in Psycho, where basically Marion Crane, if it had not been raining hard that night, would have never died. She would have never had to stop in the motel. I mean, there's so many little things like that in this movie about where just random chance led to people's demise. So that was something else I picked up on this watch through that I had not before because it came out in that documentary.
Yeah, and I mean, so it's the and the funny thing with this, Dad, that I mean, I guess not funny, but the unique thing about this, I guess, is a better term, is that you could like you, just us talking about it now. Every time you watch it, you can usually probably find something else to really. I mean, I guess this could be said for a lot of really classic movies that you watch, but for this one in particular, because there's so much to really appreciate out of it that sometimes it's hard to appreciate it all at once. So it's like in this one, I think I was like really trying, like I said, I was trying to go to the view of someone that hasn't, tried to look at it as upon someone that hasn't seen it, and I picked up so many little nuances because I was trying to look at it from a different viewpoint. And I think that's what's so cool about this, that it still delivers no matter how you go in to watch this, and you always find something new to appreciate out of it.
Yeah, I find these movies the hardest to talk about because they're so classic. They've been talked about and analyzed so much. It's like, what am I going to bring to it? Yeah,
right. I feel like sometimes I'm saying stuff here and I'm like, oh my God, am I doing it justice? Because this is like a movie that like expert critics have been reviewing
there's
for
people
years.
that write books about this movie.
Yeah,
and they made a whole
here's me and Tim.
Yeah, they make a whole documentary about one scene in this movie, and here's me and Brian supposedly trying to do this justice. Yeah, and I'm not
5 minutes removed from a corny pun, and we're here now talking about this movie.
So I'm not even going to pretend that I can do this movie justice on this podcast.
No, I know. Yeah, I know I can't. I can just... The way I think the best way to go about this is what basically the essence of our podcast is. We're going in as just two horror fans that talk about what they like. And that's, this is one of those movies that's right at the top of our list. So it's still, no matter what, it's still fun to talk about, whether we bring some revolutionary tidbit that you've never seen before or what, it's like...
Yeah, and I think you have to... It's one of those movies that you have to personally fall in love with. Like, I can't tell you that this should be your favorite movie or one of your favorite horror movies or one in your top 5 like it is for me. It's one of those that you just have to experience on your own, and you either love it or you think it's okay or whatever. But it's something that to me is like almost like a personal level. I can't convey that to anyone else, what this movie means to me, because I can't even, I don't have words to describe why I love this movie so much. I mean, I can tell you that Anthony Perkins' performance. I could tell you it's the score, which is phenomenal.
Oh, it's great.
I mean, I could tell you about the camera shots, but I can't put all that into a cohesive whole that would explain or convey how much I love this movie.
And this is one of those hard movies that's become, so known and iconic for a particular scene that's been mimicked and joked about. I mean, so it's like, it's hard now to like almost find someone that may be going in with not any kind of preconception for it. But I'd love to to watch it with someone sometime that's never seen it.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Actually, okay, so like we should say, anyone that's listening, I mean, I can't imagine anyone that's one of our listeners have not seen this. But I think but if you know someone that actually, maybe this is better. Anyone out there that knows someone that has not seen it, watch it with them and then let us know. I'm curious to find. I want to know, almost like what Kevin and Amanda did with Star Wars. It'd be great to find.
I would go so far to say, as if you've never seen this before, would you come on the show?
Yeah,
and give us your impressions of having seen it for the very first time. I would
even
love
better.
To hear that.
Yeah, because I would love to find out from someone, because I saw it when I was young, and I watched it just because, I was watching it. I didn't go in thinking I would be talking about it years later in any sort of format other than, just hanging around with people. But so, yeah, that would be, almost like jealous of someone that hasn't seen it to this point that could possibly go see it now. Especially now you've been seen so many other horror films that have probably tried to take little pieces of it. Mm-hmm. And it failed, and just other things have gone. I would want to see someone that's maybe seen like the Bates Motel, but yet not seen any of these.
That would be interesting. Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah. So obviously we haven't done the movie justice, but all we can tell you is how much we both love it, and I think the sequels are actually going to be easier to talk about because we can talk about what we liked and what we disliked. There's nothing I don't like about Psycho. Period.
No, I
think the film's almost perfection.
It really is. It really is as close to perfect of a film and especially a horror film that you could find out there. I mean, it may not. Maybe it's not your favorite, but you can't argue that it doesn't have everything you'd possibly want in a horror film. Yeah.
So, Brian, you came up with the perfect beer pairing this week.
Yeah, this was an easy decision to make once I spotted this. So it's funny. The brewery is a very odd brewery. I'll say that one first almost. So it's Fat Orange Cat Brewing Company.
I've had one of those
East
before.
Hampton, Connecticut. Oh, you have?
No, not the beer, the cat.
Oh, you had a Fat Orange Cat. Yes, you did. But anyway, they created actually, the beer apparently it's not been. I don't know if they brewed it before and it's just not available now and it's going to be rebrewed now, but it's on the coming soon list. It's Bates Motel. So we're not going to get much better than that for this. And their description is good. It's a killer combination of Amarillo, Simcoe, and Warrior hops. The amber malt gives it a slightly toasted flavor. Taste if you dare. Ooh. And it's an American double imperial stout.
Oh, that's right up Olivia's alley. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is an Olivia beer. Just make sure she drinks it while you're not in the shower, because we don't know what'll happen. I don't know if she'll come in there and get you. But so that was a no-brainer, I think. And in fact, I know I've been splitting the brew pairing. Unless something comes along, I think that should just take the second week too.
That's just too perfect.
I don't know if I could top that one.
So in our 6 degrees of decapitation last week, we asked you to connect Dean Winters to Shelley Winters. Well, Dean Winters was in Conspiracy Theory with Leonard Jackson. I remember that movie. And then Leonard Jackson was in King of the Gypsies with Shelley Winters. So this week, obviously, we have to have an Anthony Perkins connection. Yes. So we're going to ask you... I always save to read these until I'm on the air because they're so funny. Anthony Perkins to Elizabeth Perkins.
Yeah. And no relation,
and how can you do this?
Right?
How can you do this in 2? I have no idea, but apparently you can do it in 2.
Because everything's now in 2. We just might as well rename this 2 degrees of decapitation.
Yeah.
Because we have not since that one we had a 3. I think everything else has been 2. Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing. Stunning how small I guess. And
I think Brian, really we're probably going to change up. I think this is a trend. I think next season we'll do a completely different style of game.
Yeah.
So first,
I agree.
Yeah. First season was trivia. Second season was the was the decapitation connections. I think season 3 will be something totally different. So if you don't like this, or if you prefer the old trivia, we're going to come up with something completely new next
yeah,
year.
I think that keeps it fresh because we like the basic format. Obviously, the beer pairing's here to stay.
Yeah.
That was decided. That was actually one of the first decisions I think we made.
Yeah, it was. Even before we had a real format for the show, we had a beer pairing. Yeah,
and that was what we had decided. We said we thought it'd be an interesting thing to pair a beer with horror movies, since we both love beer and we both love horror movies. So that was actually, at one point, I think that was the format, wasn't it? That was like the focus of it.
Yeah, it was actually going to be the whole episode was going to be around that.
Yeah, right? Yeah, so it's like, so that one's not going anywhere. So if you don't like that, too bad. And then obviously we got our fun with the puns and the borrowing from Coaster Radio a bit with our first chop and stuff like that. But I we've gotten some good feedback on those segments that people really like those. So because it gives a good, we like to touch on different aspects of horror, not just the main movie.
Yeah, and if you guys have any suggestions for like segments you want to see, or ideas for segments, or segments you actually hate and want us to change or whatever, let us know. Drop us a line at Gmail or Twitter or Facebook and let us know what you like and what you don't like, because we are not opposed to tweaking the show.
No, and actually we take a lot of ideas. We took some film suggestions, and also David, who gave us the 2001 Maniacs suggestion, also basically inspired us to do what we're following our Summer Slaycation with.
That's right. Yeah.
With the Back to Ghoul segment.
So yeah,
which is going to be cool. So we'll announce the details.
Always up for suggestions and stuff, because it's tough coming up with new content week after week. You have to lean on our fans to help us along sometimes. So
yeah, and we actually have a question for you guys. Actually, for our final comments here. So we wanted to know. Now it was funny because we had discussed this off air when we were planning this, and we might have actually even tweaked on it in a conversation format only on air, but about whether or not to include the Psycho remake in the second part of the Summer Slaycation, because I know we've done that with the Halloweens and Friday the 13th. But this one was like so close to being a shot-for-shot remake that just failed in a lot of ways. We weren't sure if you wanted us to include it. So right. I guess let us know if you want us to include it or not. I mean, I'm sure it will be discussed, but we won't actually, if obviously you guys don't want to.
But if you tell us to include it, we have to watch it again.
Yeah.
So you will be putting us through torture. So let that influence your decision too.
As crazy it is, I was thinking of possibly watching it anyway, just to have. But I should probably tell the story. So it's funny. Last night while I was watching the original, Julie happened to go in. She was going to bed. She went into the bedroom and she flipped on the TV, and the remake was on, and it was like minutes away from the part, which was pretty funny. I thought it was literally, we were a few minutes away from what was happening in the original versus what was happening in the remake. The remake was a little ahead. It was when the sister was actually entered into the house, and I was about maybe 10 minutes away in the original from that point. So
yeah, so we'll probably put a poll up on Twitter, but if you want to comment on Facebook, we'll probably put a Facebook poll up too, and then if you want to drop us a Gmail at civilgorepodcast@gmail.com, you can do that as well. And then obviously next week we're going to do Psycho 2, 3, and 4.
Yes.
So we've already talked about Bates Motel a little bit on this show, so we won't have to revisit that. But yeah,
right.
we'll do all the sequels and possibly the remake if you guys want it. So
right, and then we're gonna, after that, actually, we should probably announce that we're gonna have a I know this is gonna sound so lazy, but we're actually gonna take a Slaycation in the midst of our Slaycation.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Due to some travel. So we're going to I won't tell you which we're going to do yet, but it's definitely something that has some good merit, especially for Tim. We're going to do a commentary for you guys, another one of our commentary tracks. We haven't done one in a while. So we're going to do one of those and kind of put it in. It comes out in a good time. At least it's not break up an existing Slaycation.
Right.
Topic.
This will come out this will come out after our Norman Bates series wraps up, and before the Saw remake. We'll slip that commentary in there because we just had 1 week there travel wise. Both of us are going to be gone, so we just had no way. So we'll stick a commentary in there so you guys aren't going without for a week.
Yeah, it also cleansed the palate from Psycho to Saw. You know, it's just not a
not a smooth transition.
Yeah. So that'll be good.
So we'll see you guys here next week. And remember, don't eat like a bird.
Oh, you would know, Tim.
Actually, Brian, that's a falsity because birds actually eat a tremendous a lot.